Hey out there, this is March 21st, 2015, and I'm in Northern California, and it's a beautiful morning. The sky is fairly clear, but we got a nice trail. They're starting right here. There's another one that crosses it right there. Got a big park here. Someone put a poster up here. Showing the skies how they always used to be and what we've got now, and attributing the possibility that this spraying program is causing drought here in California. This is put out by Dane Wigington of the the chemtrail investigation fame, and fella I met on my last video, which was a real treat. Get to meet this guy. Hey out there. Well, today I'm going to jump around a lot likely. There's quite a few things I wanted to talk about, but one of them is just how pitiable our nature as human beings is. How feeble our condition as these mortal beings with these bodies of death. And it's hard, just to be human. And, kudos to everybody out there that just copes, that just survives. Because you know what? That's good enough. Because the people that are running the system hate us. They hate people at large. And that's very important for people to understand. The powers that be that are manipulating our reality and corralling us into their version of utopia, which is a place that is void of the vast majority of people that walk the earth today. And these people have a special hatred for anybody out there that considers themselves decent and upright, and that will stand up for the truth. They'll stick their neck out and risk their lives to remain a righteous and decent person that has goodwill toward their fellow man. But they hate everybody else too, that all you out there that, I kind of wish everybody would just die too, because there's too many people and there'd be more parking and rents would go down, and, less traffic on the freeway. So I can understand how anybody might get into the mindset that human beings are a scourge on the earth and that we've really got to reduce the numbers for the betterment of those that are left. I mean, which isn't really the greatest good anyhow, so it doesn't make any sense. It's hypocrisy. And, you got to shy away from hypocrisy wherever you see it in your life and say, something? God laid it out there for us, that we know what we need to do to find happiness, to find eternal life, a life worth living, that is. Because right now we've all been born into a real sort of hell. Like Jesus said, he called the prince of this world, he called Satan, who is the ruler of the earth right now. And so all of us are literally walking through hell on our way to heaven, hopefully. And that's like this race that the Apostle Paul talked about, that we're all running. And we've got to make sure we don't miss the mark, because after all that work, We don't want to, wow, I was wrong in such a fundamental way because I believed the lie. And what is the lie? The biggest lie is that human beings don't have a right to be born free, to not be in bondage, to not live in fear of their fellow human being, to be free from the method of bondage, which is money. And this goes to the teachings of Jesus, who taught that you cannot serve two masters, that literally this concept, this money, like the concept of God, is evil. This is the root of all the problems that humanity has. He spelled it out, handed it to us on a silver platter. And he said, what we must do is love God above all else, for giving us the wisdom to understand, to discern these things, and to be determined to go to a better place, to create a better world for our children and their children's children, to be somebody in the sight of God, just to do God's work, understanding that we're creatures, created, we're owned. And in our right mind, we understand that's a good thing. We want to be owned by a good God that loves us, that is perfect in every way, that if you do your best to reflect this God, that you'll be somebody, and you'll be somebody that can stand up in the face of evil. And that's what we've got to do. The people at the top need to be confronted. On our way to heaven, creating this society where we're all living together in full peace and harmony and contentment and freedom and safety and security and just joy and happiness all the time, doing whatever we want whenever we want. I mean, look, if you can't imagine that world, then you won't be there. So you've got to, see how different that is in the world that we have. That's what we really have to do. Look at it. Look at the contrast between what we have, this devil soup, okay? It's just corrupt up one side, down the other, and, to the nth degree, because it's just wicked. The whole system is based on fraud. It's a mountain of fraud on a hill of sand, and it's going to crumble. It's got to crumble. They know it's going to crumble. These people are monsters. They're insane, and they're trying to create us in their image and likeness, monsters and insane. And that's basically what we've got now. There's so many people that don't understand even rudimentary facets of capitalism, and they don't have an argument. They don't have any confidence to understand this is really simple math. This really is as simple as understanding 2 + 2 = 4. Okay? When people talk about minimum wage and how that's going to be the cause of inflation is because we got to give these workers wages. Well, let me ask you something. If your cost of living is going up and you don't give a cost of living adjustment, tell me, is there any difference than actually getting a pay decrease? You understand? So yes, I'm against people continually getting a pay decrease, of course. I mean, who wouldn't be? But there seems to be a lot of confusion, and that's a basic economic principle that if we're ever going to get out of bondage, we've got to understand. We've got to understand what's going on here. We have unsound currency. It's an unsound God. It has to be. It's the ruler of this world. This is what all the politicians in these positions of power are bowing down to, the almighty dollar. That's it. I mean, it's that simple. I'm not being cynical at all. I've researched this long and hard, folks, and it's so simple and it's so much in front of our face. It is like a forest for the trees situation here. Now, I kind of want to break off into another subject. I was reading comments on the Alex Jones channel on YouTube. I was watching this, he was playing a piece about these, the new Black Panthers, this group, they're calling themselves the Huey P as in Paul, Newton Gun Club. And, they're marching down the street, 2, 3, 4 dozen of these people, with a couple little children in the crowd there, and they're all packing heat, and that's all fine, I guess, open carry. It was just that it was so incendiary. The speech was profane, and it was violent. And I don't know that kind of speech really is protected under the First Amendment. I couldn't imagine a radical branch of the Police Officers Association going out there and, coming down and targeting one career group. I mean, what if they said, start making fun of the garbage men, and the garbage men were the target of the hate, for whatever reason this group had started to hate the garbage men, that they rubbed them the wrong way. Hell, I just had a garbage man set the alarm off my car the other day when I was taking a nap. I had to have a talk with him. So it's not that far-fetched. But you know, he was a really nice guy, and we fixed the problem, I think. If I could get my neighbor to put his cans in a little different place on garbage pickup day. But anyhow, I don't want to digress here. But the point I'm trying to make is that, you know, what they did in a sense was admirable, and Alex Jones made a point about that. And, you know, that just that the boldness of standing against the powers that be, you got to admire that. But, you know, that's what the powers that be expect. You see, they expect to be hated and loathed and detested. And that's what we got to not give them, because they're ready for that, okay? This is where the whole love your enemy thing comes in. Okay, why, you know, show me the logic. Love my enemy, that's stupid. You know, we should tell Jesus, right? But no, you know, he didn't say this to no avail. It is profitable to do this. This is effective. They don't expect it, but it's got to be genuine. It can't just be a pretense. So you've got to practice, you've got to work on it, you've got to ask every day. This is a hard teaching, God. I can't, you know, love my enemy, forgive, and all that, and bless my enemy. But this is something we've got to embrace. We've got to. If we're going to get through this thing, it's going to be very traumatic, this end of the age and this entering the new age. And it's going to have to do with learning how to live together as the family of man. One race. That's it. We're the human race. We're one family. We've got to start treating each other that way. These are the only 2 commands worth of crap, because all the other ones fall into place. All these 2 commandments that Jesus gave supersede all the others. Because if you just did these 2, you would fulfill automatically. You wouldn't broach any of the other commandments. So that's why they can supersede that and keep it simple. And they are just love God above all else and love one another. That's it. We've got to love one another. And one another certainly includes our enemies. So fundamentally, we've got to understand that fact, that includes your enemy. If you don't love your enemy, then you are not fulfilling the commandment. If you love your enemy, you are fulfilling the commandment. And how many times have we heard it said that we're our own worst enemy? I mean, how often do I feel that way? And some of you out there, you know, that who's screwing up, you know, your happiness all the time? Well, it's my own choices, or, you know, foolishness or sinful, or, you know, whatever. I'm thinking the wrong things. That's all sin, you know. And so, you know, we've got to spend more time cultivating the things that bring us happiness. Going into our closet, like Jesus said, and pray and get our values straight with God, and just make sure we know our own hearts, that they're pure. Because it's written, it's promised that you know, those with a pure heart will see God, will see good. And that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about big change, because good is going to be ushered in. These people still have some power at the top, but they're losing it. I can feel it in my bones. I really feel like the worm is really starting to turn. I mean, it's like a dam. They know it's going to fail. They know they're going to lose, but they're going to put out as much lies and propaganda and deceit and just diversions and distractions as they can. They're going to throw, you know, they're all in now. It's all going in to muddy up the pond as much as they can. But it's not working, because the power of good, you know, not to be religious, because, you know, I don't want to leave people that are non-religious or anti-religious out of the loop. You know, we're all part of this thing. I mean, you take a guy like Jesse Ventura. He says he's an atheist, but give me a break. I mean, if you've ever listened to the man, I mean, if there was ever a God-fearing, God-loving man, it's Jesse Ventura. But, you know, because of his you know, hatred or disdain, let's say more mildly, for religion, because if you look at the history of so many religions, you see that there's often, you know, violence involved. I mean, look at the Roman Catholic, you know, totalitarian state that was going on during the Dark Ages. And we know there's good grounds. I mean, these people were outlawing the Bible. You got caught with the Bible, you get strangled, get your head cut off, whatever. You know, the Inquisitions, the Crusades. You wonder why people all over the world hate Catholicism. Not everybody. I mean, some people are lured in by, you know, the magnificence of the Pope and the Vatican City and all the attire, and, you know, it's fanciful, and they think it's, you know, the one to follow, because, you know, certainly the Pope is Jesus' representative, you know, so he becomes this Christ-like figure. And, you know, this is where the Antichrist leads in, because this is a substitute, it's a stand-in, because the Pope is, you know, can you imagine Jesus behaving like the Pope, attired like that, and, you know, exalted in the eyes of the world? It doesn't work that way. And if you look into the church, you find out that there's a whole lot of corruption in the church. These authoritarians can be traced way back to biblical times. And so there is going to be this collusion of